Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Game Changer. I'm your host Maryam Zia. In today's show, we will talk about the visit of Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari to Economic Cooperation Organization, where he attended Council of Ministers meeting. And the theme of this year's meeting was Year of Connectivity. We will explore in today's program that how member states of Economic Cooperation Organization can act together to enhance connectivity in the region. We will also talk about the ongoing situation in Afghanistan. Specifically, we will discuss the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, and about two-thirds population of Afghanistan is in the need of humanitarian assistance. How ECO member states can come together to help Afghanistan, and what can world do to help Afghanistan. To discuss this and more, I have been joined in the studios by Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who is IR expert. Thank you very much, sir, for joining in today's show. And with him, I've been joined in the studios by Mr. Sheharyar Khan, who is an expert on international affairs. Welcome to the program. So, Dr. Jaspal, let me start with you. That Prime Minister, Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari attended Council of Ministers meeting, and the theme of this year was Year of Connectivity. We are talking about geoeconomics and connectivity among the member states. So what do you take out of this conference? Specifically, he talked about the trade that needs to be enhanced amongst the regions.
You very rightly pointed out that the foreign minister is participating in the economic 26th meeting of the Council of Ministers and representing Pakistan, and the theme which you rightly pointed out, the year of strengthening the regional connectivity. If you recall, in 2017, when Pakistan hosted the summit of the ECO members, that was the connectivity for regional prosperity, that was the theme. And then within this, when we look about this, that they are going to see that what is the 25 in 2015, they made a 2025 10 years vision, which defined the sustainability or connectivity. And if you see all the aiming, even its evolution of the ECO, because it's an extension of RCD of the 1960, which shelved in 1979 and then rebooted in 1985. So the theme from the very beginning is a replica of Pakistan since 1960, what Pakistan has been following.
And Pakistan is one of the founding members of ECO.
And Pakistan has from 1960, it has been continuously articulating that the region's prosperity is, you can say, lies within the regional connectivity.
Of course.
So that is our own motto of the last, you can say, 6 decades. So in this context, of course, this meeting is very significant for Pakistan for 3 reasons. One, as you said, and we will be touching this in the later part of the program, Afghanistan. Second, Uzbekistan is very significant for Pakistan. We have a very good bilateral relations. And when yesterday our foreign minister was received by the acting foreign minister of the Uzbekistan, immediately they both had a dialogue for the transport connectivity, for other things. And within the transport connectivity, we cannot ignore Pakistan, Uzbekistan has been deliberating and also taking Afghanistan into it, that they have been deliberating to have a railway connectivity from Uzbekistan via Afghanistan to Gwadar. So in that context, definitely that gives us a lot of edge. And in that, similarly, when we are looking about this kind of a connectivity, we found it that it's an excellent opportunity. Besides that, which you said, ECO itself is meant for it, and its objectives are for the region. And if it will be translated year of strengthening connectivity, it means that this year will be very optimistic for our economic prosperity.
Right, we are talking about that. This is very significant for the region. So, Mr. Sheharyar, we are talking about doubling the trade amongst member states. What has been loopholes that has kept the countries far apart, and what needs to be done to implement Vision 2025, as Dr. Jaspal mentioned?
So Maryam, ECO is a platform which is very important for regional cooperation. It's also very important for socio-economic uplift. And this time around, this 26th meeting of the Council of Ministers is very important in the whole backdrop of Afghanistan and the regional connectivity that Pakistan has been advocating for so long. And when I was looking at Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto's address today, he also very carefully pointed out the importance of regional connectivity. Other than the fact that he talked in detail about our floods and the climate change situation and the devastating floods that Pakistan went through last year. And most importantly, Afghanistan was a key feature in his discussion and talks. So as soon as Mr. Bilawal reached Tashkent yesterday, he had a lot of meetings with members from the commerce and trade groups of Uzbekistan, and he's also meeting members from Turkmenistan as well. And there will be a lot of talks on regional connectivity. There will be discussions on the road networks. There will be discussions on a lot of projects that have been signed, MOUs have been signed, and the progress of those will be monitored and evaluated. So especially this whole conference is very important in that regard.
Right. So Dr. Jaspal, what about the economic diplomacy that Pakistan has been advocating? What do you see the outcome of economic diplomacy of Pakistan?
I think that our foreign minister, when raised this issue, and in this economic diplomacy, you see that Central Asia is rich for oil, gas, natural resources, and it is also a backyard of South Asia for an economic purposes. And if there will be an economic connectivity, or what you are saying, economic sort of thing, naturally there will be a transportation routes and more connectivity, then what the Sheharyar said, that the uplifting of socio-economic, then it will be going to happen. In the economic diplomacy, the most important thing is that the economic diplomacy is that it enhances the trade, but at the same time, it contributes in conflict management and conflict resolution, because economic diplomacy is something which leaves you a win-win situation and easily transform the conflict into from conflict resolution to the conflict transformation. If you see, this region is a victim of many conflicts. Though in the Central Asia they are manage their border, but still they have a violent tensions. But Afghanistan is the key. So as we all are looking and talking about the economic diplomacy in Tashkent, definitely what is our, you can say, message, that we don't need Afghanistan as a buffer zone. We don't need Afghanistan of 20th or 19th century. We need Afghanistan, a different Afghanistan, which is not transit zone. So it will be a junction of the cultures, junctions of the economic sort of thing. I think economic diplomacy is good for political as well as soft image of the country, and in that context Pakistan is very much active, and naturally it serves our purpose, because with this we are in a position to establish a contact between the China-Pakistan economic corridor and between the China-Central Asia economic corridor, and there is only one liner, and then when this start, and naturally if there is a more and more understanding, that will give us an advantage.
So around 460 million of population of this ECO member states are they are underdeveloped countries. So like Dr. Jaspal mentioned, that the connectivity needs to be enhanced. So keeping in mind the conference, what do you think are the steps that would enhance the connectivity?
So Maryam, as we've always discussed, that this region unfortunately is the least connected regions around. So in that sense, when we basically talk about developing interconnectedness, when we talk about developing regional connectivity, so our key focus is to develop some sort of economic interdependence between all of these regional players that are there. And Afghanistan obviously is very central to that. Once this economic interdependence develops, automatically peace will follow. Because obviously there are a lot of spoilers, there are a lot of competing interests that are that have taken over the politics of the region. And once there is economic dependency, once the neighbors basically see a profitability and an uplift in the socio-economic conditions of their countries, conflict will take a back seat. And that is like something that we look forward to, and that is like something that we're working towards.
Right, and there are 10 member states of ECO. What do you think are, the areas or the sectors in which these member states can cooperate further?
I think that if you see Turkey, this is a region of ECO. On the one side, it is connected with the Asia or Europe, and ECO is representing the West Asia, Central Asia and South Asia. And in this region, what is the need? Of course, if you focus on the Central Asian, for example, when you go to Tashkent in the Uzbekistan, you find that during the Soviet periods, they developed certain things in medical sciences. They are very much advanced. Turkey is very much advanced in certain things. But Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, we are victim of wars, victim of internal. So if we focus on it, the best practices is that we learn from the Central Asians how we manage the border conflict. Central Asians managed it, and including Azerbaijan, which is very advanced. In this context, if you see, these countries are very much using the tourism. Turkey is using tourism. The Azerbaijan is using tourism. Central
And
Asia.
tourism was one of the main goals
And
of
Pakistan
ECO.
is
Yes.
very rich in the tourism if we can manage it. Yesterday we were talking about similar sort of thing. Then we have a educational cooperation.
course, of
Education is that the Central Asian states, they are scientifically very advanced, and the Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, and they have a very good universities. And if you visit their universities, you will find cultural trainings and these kind of things. Similarly, in this case, Turkey is very advanced education-wise. It has a European connection in this, though they call it
Tourism
Turkey.
is also very important, but Mr. Sheharyar, we are talking about different activities of ECO as well, and social welfare and environment were one of the most, fundamental goals of ECO. When we talk about Afghanistan, there is a humanitarian crisis going on there with about 90%, more than 90% of population is going to be, facing the food security issues. So what do you think needs to be done by the member states to, cater this issue?
So Maryam, according to the ECO Vision 2025 that Dr. Saab was also mentioning, the 6 core competition areas or core cooperation areas, one of them is economic and social welfare.
Of course.
And also like looking at the environment as well. Other than that, there is like also economic growth and productivity as well. So these are the 2 pillars under which the whole humanitarian support for Afghanistan can take place. If we look at the last year and the developments in Afghanistan, we can basically see that there's like a lot of support that can be given to Afghanistan to stabilize the country. Humanitarian support is also one of those areas where international support has also been there. The UN missions, the World Bank, and other multilateral organizations are still there. They have their offices and they have their personnel there, and humanitarian support has been provided. So, in order to give stability to Afghanistan, that is like one of the areas that needs further support from our regional stakeholders as well. So we cannot just like depend on the UN to basically keep on bailing out Afghanistan. The regional players will have to take a role as well.
Right, but when we are talking about the regional players, we also know that there is a lack of funding for Afghanistan, and which may be one of the factors for the current crisis, humanitarian crisis. What are your opinion on that?
I think that as there is a consensus at the ECO forum or ECO members, if we can take all our convinced that the Afghanistan is now a regional problem because international actors exited from there. With the Americans, the Europeans exited, then now it's in our backyard. If Afghanistan remains politically unstable because of its economic instability, insecurity will be multiplied because all these organizations like Daesh, Al-Qaeda or Central Asian or Uyghurs, they will be going to cater their poverty and use these poverty-stricken children for the suicidal bombing or recruitment. Of course, the region has to bear the burden. So in this context, if these ECO members engage Afghanistan and work for this. For example, I agree with you. You very rightly pointed out that all of them, including Pakistan, are cash-strapped. But at the same time, Pakistan is bearing one of the biggest world's refugees. The
yes.
Europeans now are unable to bear the 500,000 refugees, and they start crying, including Germany. But Pakistan is bearing. So if similar role can be played by the Central Asian states, by the Iran, by the Turkey, then fund is enough for stabilizing. And if there is a will, there is a way. I think that is the way. And second, as you started in the beginning, connectivity or economic diplomacy. Economic diplomacy requires legal approaches like how we manage the custom, how we go for giving the investment security. If we can have a legal framework that if the Uzbek is coming and investing in Pakistan, or Pakistan is investing in Uzbekistan, or their transit is, because from Uzbekistan, if you see from Uzbekistan border up to the Mazar Sharif, 80-kilometer railway track has already completed. So if we are working on this kind of the thing, then we don't need a fund, but we don't need a dollar to invest. We need a manpower, we need a
and
vision,
mechanism.
we need a vision, we need a barter trade. So these things generate the money. Activity will be going to generate the money.
So let's talk about importance of Afghanistan for connectivity in the region.
So Maryam, obviously Afghanistan has this certain strategic location which is very important, and if you look at Afghanistan's location, it basically connects all the Central Asian states.
But it's also landlocked. And
it's also landlocked.
All 7 of the member states are landlocked.
Central Asian states, they're also landlocked.
Yes.
So that is what gives Afghanistan the significance. When it comes to developing regional connectivity, unless or until the whole stability issue of Afghanistan is resolved, I don't see the regional players taking the risk of investing and developing a framework for the cooperation to happen, unless or until they can basically make sure that the security situation is stabilized. So that is one area that basically requires a lot of focus. Other than that, there are certain concerns of the international community, and from what we know, the UN Under Secretary for Humanitarian Assistance, Martin Griffith, he basically visited Afghanistan a few days ago. And when it comes to the current interim government that is in Afghanistan, when it comes to the policy, when it comes to women, that is a cause of concern for the region as well as the international community. And for humanitarian aid to flow uninterrupted, the current government or current regime in Afghanistan will have to basically reassess their policy when it comes to women, especially working in NGOs and providing humanitarian support.
Of course, and Dr. Jaspal, a lot of international organizations has backed off working from Afghanistan because of these issues that are being faced by women of Afghanistan, because we know that about 49% of population of Afghanistan is comprising of women. A large population is stopped from working. So what are your opinion of this situation, and what can be done by the Afghan government to improve the situation?
I think that when we look about this landlocked countries dilemma, we have 6 in the ECO countries landlocked and 4 are not. And within this, Afghanistan is a big dilemma. Right. It's a pivot sort of a thing, heartland. And when you highlighted the Afghan women and their working, we have to take into account 3 things first. First is, what is the Afghan's culture? And Taliban, and Afghanistan is still stuck in the mid-20th century. Because of the last 4 decades war, and despite 20 years investment of the Americans in these cities, but still major part of the Afghanistan is ruralized, and they are still with their traditional culture. Second is that when we look about the women participation, especially in the jobs, do the Afghanistan has the resources to cater the jobs or create the jobs? If the fundings will come, if the international community engage the Taliban government, and if the Taliban government transit, technically it is a de jure government, because since more than 1 year they are in power at the capital and holding the 80% and 90% of Afghanistan under their control. But at the same time, the international community is not ready to give them a de jure status. Still, it's a de facto. So when they don't have a de jure status, they are not able to participate these kind of the organizations. Like they are member of the ECO, but as a de facto government, they are not, maybe they are not invited in the, or they are not welcomed in the Tashkent. So definitely when they are out of the scene, they are out of the economic activity, they are out of the economic diplomacy, they are out
but
of the...
keeping half of the population out of workforce, what would be the impact in future?
My understanding of this is that the half force is out. Generally, we say because of religiously or culture, but my understanding is because of the lack of resources. Because when there are no resources, how you give a jobs to the males, and even from the males to the females, and in the rural areas, the trend is different. So, and secondly, the people who are giving the estimates, my understanding is, in the last 2 decades, when the American dollar was coming in Afghanistan, they created a community, of course educated community, which were working in the NGOs. Personally, I do not support the Afghan Taliban's this decision to keep the women out of the education institutions, or say if there is a 10 jobs, they have to create some jobs for them.
Right. We will talk more about it and about the visit of UN Deputy Secretary General to Afghanistan, where they met with Taliban leadership, and they are negotiating about terms that to bring these women in the workforce again and to the educational institutions. We're talking about the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. We'll take a short break here. Welcome back. We are talking about the current situation in Afghanistan and what needs to be done by the member states of ECO and the world. So, Dr. Jaspal, we were talking about the education system and how half of the population is being kept out of the workforce, and what would be the impact in future. So, let's talk about the health system that is also, sort of collapsing, and we also know that climate change has also its impact on the situation in Afghanistan. We have seen the flash flooding in Afghanistan. So there are a lot of factors, natural disasters as well as the economic conditions that have impacted and resulted in the current situation. So what to do?
I think that in this case of Afghanistan, Sheharyar had already worked with us on one of the project on the Afghanistan with these QAU, School of Politics and International Relations, and he had more data on it. But at the same time, if you see that in the 2 decades or before that 2 decades, what we have witnessed in Afghanistan, that there were bombing, there was pollution because of this war, and the leftovers is naturally the environment is the victim of this kind of a thing, and the natural disasters, they completely changed the Afghanistan situation in the Afghanistan. And then since 1.5 years, we have been seeing that there is no stability. Though politically we find there is a one government, but at the same time, how we say it's a political stability when this government is not recognized even by its neighbors as a de jure government in Afghanistan. And then if there is no political stability then or legitimacy, then how there will be a new economic projects in the modern time without connectivity with the neighboring state, without the foreign direct investment, or without the legal, you can say, kind of a assurances that the investors' investment will be protected there by law. No one is going to invest in that country, and Afghanistan is one of the biggest victims. So when you see the Afghans are today victim of natural calamities, victim of human-made calamities, victim of war, victim of proxy warriors, victim of terrorists, so you name it, you find that they are victim of it. So naturally there is a need to move out.
What needs to be done? We know that there are a lot of problems that we are discussing one by one. Let's talk about the health crisis. Also the winter season is there, and UNHCR reports that this is one of the toughest season for Afghan population. So what kind of social protection and environmental preservation policies need to be made or to be implemented by the Afghan government?
Maryam, when it comes to environmental, economic, financial policies, there's like a lot to be done. Actually, there's like nothing
Economy
done
is
at
in
all.
free fall.
Economy is in free fall overall. When you look at Afghanistan in overall macroeconomic lens, the country has like very low productivity. I think it's suffering from a lot of brain drain as well. There's like a lot of capacity issues. And one way out of this whole dilemma is regional connectivity. So if Afghanistan can be one of the transit states when it comes to CPEC, when it comes to regional road infrastructure, when it comes to rail infrastructure, that is like something that can socio-economically uplift the country. Now for all that to happen, obviously the security situation, the security environment of the country needs to be better. There needs to be some sort of like visionary approach from the Taliban government that is like definitely needed. And they also need to take the regional players and the international community on board together and take all of this further. When it comes to a lot of like projects that we keep on discussing that are game changers for the region, we talk about CASA 1000, we could talk about TAPI gas pipeline, we talk about the Trans-Afghan railway network. One thing we keep on forgetting is that all of these arrangements are bilateral in nature. And because of the global isolation of Afghanistan and because of the fact that they have no financial institutions, they are isolated globally from the international financial networks. It's very difficult to bring Afghanistan into these bilateral networks. So I personally think Afghanistan should be made a stakeholder, and these bilateral arrangements that we are making with various Central Asian countries, they should be converted to trilateral. So at least like Afghanistan can develop a stake in this region, and it can play a proactive role rather than being a secondary partner in this whole regional integration process.
And just an observer. So, Dr. Jaspal, how to do that?
I second what the Sheharyar said, that first step could be that Afghanistan should be stakeholder, and at the same time.
And what about people of Afghanistan?
Definitely, when
Afghanistan
will be a stakeholder, naturally the people of the Afghanistan will be stakeholder. If you have a bilateral to trilateral, let's say, we talk about the Uzbekistan-Pakistan railway track, and if we invite the Afghanistan into it, definitely there will be work, there will be more jobs for the people, there will be international consortiums will be there, and they will get a more time. Similarly, when you talk about TAPI, that Afghanistan, Pakistan, you can say Afghanistan, and if the Afghan is the part, and then people will be, because where the conflict transform, where the people start thinking that the conflict is going to snatch, you can snatch my butter and bread. So why not I can avoid it? So even if there is a track, if there is a track, let's say hypothetically thinking, tomorrow there is a railway track, then within the 24 to 48 hours from Gwadar to Central Asia, Tashkent, the things will reach, and in the other, from Tashkent you have a different other parts connectivity of the Central Asia. So who will be the beneficiary in a transit? Afghan people. So in this way, this is the first way that we have to go it. But the problem here is that my question here is that is the international community deliberately keeping the Afghans underdeveloped, or they want to keep Afghanistan as a home for proxy war?
In September 2022, there was Afghan fund was announced by US. What is the progress of that fund and how that was supposed to help Afghanistan?
I think that the American assistance have normally problem is that 60 to 70% never move from Washington. And remaining will go with the contractors. Only 10 to 15 go on the ground, and Afghanistan is in a mess created by the international community, and still it is a mess because they are not permitting the Afghans to grow. And my understanding is that is it a deliberately, or why the international community has an apathetic approach towards the Afghanistan?
Right. Why so, Mr. Sheharyar? We are talking about that the world needs to, help Afghanistan because a peaceful and prosperous Afghanistan is in interest of the whole, not only the region but the whole world. But we also know that the key donors, US, UK, Japan, as well as European Union, have imposed restrictions on the funding or the donations for Afghanistan. So how that the economic situation is going to improve in all these situations?
So when it comes to the support coming from Western capitals and a lot of multilateral organizations that we basically know, I think the whole humanitarian aid as well is kind of linked to the effective implementation of the Doha Agreement that was signed
Right.
between the US and the Taliban. So in effective implementation of that agreement, there are like certain confusions, I would say, or I don't think like the both parties on the same page when it comes to that. So in regards to that, the first aspect that needs to be considered is that Afghan soil, according to regional stakeholders and Western stakeholders, Afghan soil should not be used for any attacks to originate from Afghanistan towards the west. There should be no presence of terrorist organizations operating from Afghan soil. Other than that, women empowerment issues that
Right.
we've already discussed. So these are
Yes,
like
cross-border infiltration has
cross-border
been an
infiltration,
issue
and
for
Pakistan
the
is
past-
also like one of the victims when it comes to cross-border attacks. So these are the areas in which the Western capitals basically feel that there is a lot of work to be done from the Afghanistan side.
Right, but what about the geoeconomics of the region? Let's talk about that, all these member states were attending this conference and Afghanistan was one of the issues that came under consideration. So what do you think member states can do to help Afghanistan and for the peace of the region?
I think that as we started today with the ECO yearly agenda, without Afghanistan, it's impossible to accomplish. And it is just like that we all are standing outside and there's a big hole or we are unable to cross. How to cross this hole or how to bridge this? Of course, there is a need of the regional state has to take the responsibility of the Afghanistan. In this context, the great game is there between the three great powers, I mean Russia, China and the US. And there, the Afghanistan is going to bleed the Russians, it is going to bleed the Chinese, it is going to bleed us, X, Y, Z. So that's why these regional actors have to invest in Afghanistan so that they try to bridge the Afghanistan and make a bridge for the rest of the region. Second important thing is where the Sheharyar rightly pointed out, Doha Agreement. Here comes that the Taliban government has also to honor the Doha Agreement. According to that, they have to not permit the Afghan soil to be used against the other countries. In this context, I am very much clear that why TTP, Tariq Taliban Pakistan, is using the Afghan soil against Pakistan. So Taliban has to act. It's their responsibility. They promise for it. That is the problem where when even Pakistan is one of the biggest pleader of the Afghan miseries and advocator of the Afghanistan's case everywhere. Even our foreign minister
recently
he made it, and he's always talking about Bilawal Bhutto is very much talking about these kind of the things. If you see in this context, again, we are not comfortable with them. Because they are not even to fulfill their promises to Pakistan. How the other nations will depend on Afghans. So this is here the Afghans have themselves also look that they are no more, you can say, guerrilla warriors. They are the Taliban is now government, and the government has the responsibilities which if they do not act responsibly, even the day will come when Pakistan will become unable to advocate the Afghan case which we are now pleading.
Right, and when we talk about connectivity and how to come out of these conflicting situations, we talk about trade and economics. So what is the trade volume between these member states and how to enhance the trade volume between these member states to increase connectivity in the region?
Maryam, unfortunately the trade volume is quite low. When it comes to trade of commodities, last year there was like some trade. I think like over 1,000 trucks basically moved from Karachi via Afghanistan to Uzbekistan. So that is like something that is like encouraging to see. But I personally think this trade can be increased 1,000 folds. How landlocked the Central Asian republics are, and the access that can be provided through the Arabian Sea into the Indian Ocean, I personally think the potential of the trade is not being realized right now. And there are like variety of reasons for that. The security situation of Afghanistan is like one situation, one area. Other than that, the connectivity that we are working on, that is when it comes to practically implementing that on ground, there are like still challenges. So once this like connectivity starts like flowing, when the Gwadar port gets functional and starts reaching its potential, that's when we can basically assume and hope for this like trade volume to start expanding. Right now, I personally feel that it is way below potential.
So to promote economic, prosperity and to promote economic development of the region was one of the main goals of ECO. So what needs to be done to, reach that goal?
I think that for reaching that goal or objectives, there are, since you can say we have been working on this, but there is a need a practical approach. Practical approach is that if you see the last ECO summits or these Council of Ministers at 26, their communique and their statement, sometimes I feel it's more rhetoric rather than practice. There is a gap between theory and practice.
So how to fill that gap?
ECO members have to be very practical in this context. They identify certain areas where on work on it. For example, I can think that if you see that from Afghanistan to Uzbekistan, Pakistan is, as very rightly Sheharyar pointed out, that from Karachi, but this is citrus season. Our citrus go to and it will take only 2 hours, 1.5 days. It's a big business, but when the border is closed. So first we have, what is the ECO's primary objective? To stabilize the border area, to minimize the conflict at the border, and to open up the border sort of things so that there will be a more prosperity and connectivity. Unfortunately, when the truckers started crossing the border, Pakistan and Afghanistan have a problem. Similar, Afghanistan has a problem with the other side and within that. So first step is they have to work on the border management. They have to train the custom people of all the states. They have to, you can say, develop the rules of the games. Yes, we follow the international laws, but we can't develop the ECO laws. They have to go for professional, we call it a professional treatment of each other. They have to give these kind of the things, and at the same time,
incentives should be
given. They have to enhance the people connectivity. When
people contact needs
and within this, whether it could be a religious tourism. Central Asia is full of religion. If you go Samarkand, you will go, it is a historical as well as a religious tourism. The Khizr Mosque is there. If you can go to the other parts of you would find number of the things. And then we have to also learn how they manage the sectarianism in Pakistan and there. And from there, first, when the people will connect, definitely trade indirectly start flowing.
Right.
So first is improve the people connectivity, improve the border management, and legalize, improve the laws, how to deal with one another or each other.
Right. So all these steps needs to be done. And Mr. Sheharyar, Pakistan has always been of the opinion that a peaceful, stable and prosperous Afghanistan is not only for benefit or for Pakistan, but for the whole world. And what do you think the world needs to do to help Afghanistan in the current situation, specifically the humanitarian crisis where more than 90% of population is poverty stricken?
So, Maryam, that's a very good entry point for discussion when it comes to Afghanistan's cooperation with the world. So humanitarian angle is like somewhere where the whole international community is united, and that's where they have a consensus that this is like an area where they can like support Afghanistan.
Right, but do you think that enough is being done?
I personally think enough is not being done.
Right.
And if this famine, drought or like this whole humanitarian situation worsens, then there will be a huge humanitarian crisis knocking at our borders. And this is like something that Pakistan has gone through since the 70s, 80s. We have like hosted the largest refugee population in the world. Other than that, if you look at the politics in Europe right now and the European Union, I personally think they cannot afford to have such a humanitarian crisis at their doorstep. And if people in Afghanistan, they don't have means to basically earn, if they don't have means to basically sustain themselves economically, socially, and if they basically don't even like get food to eat, they will definitely be migrating from that. And that is like one area that should be in the focus of the European Union at least. And that should be a trigger point for them to start like helping Afghanistan and like helping it transition towards a more sustainable and viable actor in the global arena.
Right. So world needs to come together to help Afghanistan. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheharyar Khan, for joining in today's show, and thank you very much, Dr. Zafar Jaspal, for joining in today's show. In today's program, we talked about economic cooperation organization and how the member states can help to increase and enhance connectivity in the region. We also talked about the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, where more than 90% of Afghanistan's population, as per new reports, is in need of humanitarian assistance. The member states of ECO needs to come together, and also the world needs to come together to help Afghanistan, because a peaceful and prosperous Afghanistan is in the interest of not only the region but the whole world. That is all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.